Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jasodanandana Vrajanaranjana Jasodanandana Vrajanaranjana Jamanatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Madhava Punjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatara Satasi Srimad Divine Grace Desi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda Ki Gora Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're going to continue reading from Canto 10, Chapter 11, Krishna's Childhood Pastimes. And where we are is Krishna's returned. This is Canto 10, Chapter 11, Text 57. Krishna's returned after killing the Bakasura demon, and the cowherd boys are telling the cowherd men and cowherd ladies, wow, what happened today? Krishna did this and did that and did that. And so they're marveling at Krishna's, the good fortune of Krishna being protected because he's so pious. Narayan is protecting him. Demons are wicked, so they're being annihilated. They're just enjoying Krishna's amazing exploits, but not seeing him as the personality of Godhead. The last evening class when was it? No, it was in Saturday evening class. We had some discussion about the 5 primary rasas and the 7 secondary rasas. You familiar with that? No? Primary rasas, neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, conjugal love. Neutrality, servitorship, dasya rasa, sakya rasa, vatsalya rasa, madhurya rasa. And then there are 7 secondary rasas, and one that keeps coming up is astonishment. When Krishna does something that's just like, wow, they go, wow. It's a secondary rasa, astonishment. So one of those secondary rasas that because we went through the list, one of them, the Sanskrit word is bibhatsu rasa, that has different meanings. One of those meanings is ghastliness, or sometimes disaster, and sometimes it's even translated as disgust. Disgust. So there was a question, a collection of explanations of that one question. The 7th secondary rasa, ghastliness, disaster, disgust. How does that fit in? How's that an ecstatic, loving emotion? In this mellow of devotional service, in ghastliness, the sub-ecstatic symptoms are spitting upon the consideration of one's past life, contorting the face, covering the nose, and washing the hands. Maybe that's what's going on. It's just the coronavirus and people washing their hands is a sub-ecstatic symptom. There is also trembling of the body, forcible twisting of the body, and perspiration. Other symptoms which may be present are shame, exhaustion, madness, illusion, frustration, humility, self-pity, restlessness, eagerness, and stunning of the body. Paragraph. When a devotee lamenting for his past abominable activities shows special symptoms on his body, his feeling is called ecstasy in devotional service and ghastliness. This is caused by the awakening of his Krishna consciousness. Gives an example. A fortunate child in the womb of his mother prayed to Krishna as follows: "Oh, enemy of Kamsa, the insects and worms surrounded by the stools left by different kinds of diseased persons, and after seeing this horrible scene, my eyes have become sore and I'm becoming nearly blind. I therefore pray, O Lord, O deliver from the hellish condition of life. I have fallen into this hell, but I shall try to remember your holy name always, and in this way I shall try to keep my body and soul together." This is another instance of ecstatic love for Krishna in an abominable situation. In conclusion, Hare Krishna, in conclusion, it may be stated that an ecstatic love for Krishna in ghastliness appears during the development of dormant neutrality into developed affection. Now here's the direct reference from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, text 172. Now, Bibhatsu Rasa with affection for Krishna will be discussed. Here is an example. This is from Canto 10, Chapter 60, verse 45. This is sounds like the gopis. Oh, this is Rukmini. Rukmini is in her letter to Krishna, "Please come to save me." Rukmini writes, "A woman who fails to relish the fragrance of the honey of your lotus feet becomes totally befooled, and thus she accepts as her husband or lover a living corpse covered with skin, whiskers, nails, head hair, and body hair filled with flesh, bones, blood, parasites, feces, mucus, bile, and air." That's an ecstatic symptom. Pibatsu rasa, that's Rukmini. Here's another example. Hiranyakashipu experienced an exchange of the ghastly and devastating rasa. Here's another example. A message was once sent to Krishna, informing him that after he had killed Kamsa, one of Kamsa's demon friends had gone insane. This demon was foaming at the mouth, waving his arms and rolling on the ground. This demoniac demonstration is in relationship with Krishna in a ghastly humor. Sure sounds like it. The mellow or flavor of one in indirect relationships with Krishna. The first 5 kinds of relationships are called direct, and the other 7 are called indirect. Some way or other, the demon must have had some relationship with Krishna, because these symptoms developed when he heard that Krishna had already killed Kamsa. Very big duck and opened his mouth in order to swallow Krishna and all the cowherd boys. When Krishna was entering into the demon's mouth, Balaram and the other cowherd boys almost fainted and appeared as though they had no life. Even if devotees are illusioned by some ghastly scene or by any accidental occurrence, they never forget Krishna. Secondary, indirect, ecstatic symptom due to attachment to Krishna. And the last one, sometimes ghastly activities also support strong ecstatic love for Krishna. This state of mind is called ecstatic fearfulness under illusion. The 10th canto, 23rd chapter, verse 40 of Srimad Bhagavatam. There is the following statement by the Brahmanas who are performing sacrifices. Quote, "We have all been born into 3 advantageous conditions. We are in high Brahmana families. We have ceremoniously received the sacred thread, and we are also properly initiated by a spiritual master. But, alas, in spite of all these advantages, we are condemned. Even our observance of brahmacharya is condemned." The Brahmanas thus began to condemn their own activities. They realized that, in spite of being so elevated by birth, education, and culture, they were still under the spell of the illusory energy. They also admitted that even great yogis who are not devotees of the Lord are covered by the influence of material energy. So that's just a little exposition on that 7th secondary rasa, and how to think of that as an ecstatic exhibition of love. That's an explanation from our scriptures. Now we're going to go on to Canto 10, Chapter 11, Text 58. The translation reads, well, in the last line of the verse reads, "Na vindan bhava vedanam," which means that the cowherd men, or the residents in Vrindavan, do not experience material tribulations, or they don't experience the tribulations of material existence. Here's Prabhupada's translation and purport. In this way, the cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, enjoyed topics about the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram with great transcendental pleasure, and they could not even perceive material tribulations. Purport. Here is an instruction about the result of studying or discussing the Krishna Leelas that appear in Srimad Bhagavatam, because that's what the residents of Vrindavan were doing. They're just discussing Krishna's pastimes. And it carry them to a very special place. Sajyo Hridi Avarudyatetra Kritibi Shushrubis Tatshanat. Bhagavatam 112. Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda in Vrindavan appeared like ordinary persons of this material world, but they never felt the tribulations of this world, although they sometimes met many dangerous situations created by the demons. This is a practical example. If we follow in the footsteps of Nanda Maharaj and the Gopas, we can all be happy simply by discussing the activities of Krishna. And he quotes a nice verse from Bhagavatam 176. Anartha pashamam sakshad bhakti yogam adhoksaje lokasya janato vidvangs chakre sadvata samhitam. Vyasadeva has given this literature so that everyone may understand one's transcendental position simply by discussing Bhagavad Katha. Even at the present moment, everyone everywhere can be happy and free from material tribulations by following Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no need of severe austerities and penances, which in this age are very difficult to perform. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore declared, Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. By our Krishna consciousness movement, we are trying to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam so that anyone in any part of the world can be absorbed in the Krishna consciousness movement by chanting and hearing about the activities of Krishna and be free from all material tribulations. So this free from material tribulations topic gets a lot of attention in the commentary. We're going to read from Jiva Goswami, who writes on this verse, in this way they spoke on topics of Krishna and Balaram. They would speak in the same way in the future. Not only did they speak, but they played with the Lord. Ramana Naha. They did not experience the pains of persons in samsara. They did not even know about those pains, although they were in the midst of the materialists. It is said, Shud Artha Idam Abravam. The boys, the translation is, the boys became afflicted by hunger and approached Krishna and Balaram and spoke as follows. This is a reference to Canto 10, Chapter 22, when the boys told Krishna were hungry and he sent them to the Brahmanas. So they're expressing affliction, in this case hunger, little boys. So the apparent hunger and other urges they experience are not part of this material world. Those urges are part of the pastimes, since they promote the pastimes. It wasn't a material pang, it was something they felt because it just moved the pastime along. Krishna then sent them to the Brahman, who said, nothing, get out of here. Then he sent them to the wives, and then the wives came. So it was their hunger, their urge, their pang, their affliction was part of a pastime. It's not a worldly experience. And this is going to be elaborated further. Sanatana Goswami writes, in this way they enjoyed topics. Though Balaram was not the subject of these discussions, both are mentioned because, out of affection, they were considered one. Krishna is mentioned first, since he is most prominent. They spoke, cowherd men, spoke enjoyable topics about Krishna, Krishna Rama Katham. They spoke kurvantaha. They enjoyed the topics, Ramanana, or they played with Krishna. They did not know the suffering of the material world, what to speak of experiencing it. And another commentary, Vishwanath writes, Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men sat in the meeting room and repeatedly discussed the naughtiness of the boy and his killing Vatsasura and Bakasura. They also composed songs, which they sang again and again, katham kurvantaha, and thus they did not perceive the tribulations of material existence. Bhavasya Vedanam. Paragraph. Other elderly cowherd men coming from distant places informed Nanda about the need to become liberated from the material world, they said, and remembrance of Narayana, so that you will get deliverance from the material world. Though they requested in this way, Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men did not pay any attention to that. Na avindan bhavasya vedanam. To say that this phrase means that they did not suffer the pains of material life is not acceptable. He explains why. The Srimad Bhagavatam 10.6.40 describes the exalted nature of the cowherd men and women who are not touched by the material world, born of ignorance. There is no question that they could be affected by the pains of the material world in this way. Whatever appears as material tribulations simply nourishes the pastimes and therefore is called Lila Maya. Got it? The narration is going on as if they're one of us, like the cowherd boys were feeling, we're hungry, we're famished, Krishna, so but like in anguish. But it wasn't, they weren't feeling material pangs, it was part of the pastime. I'm going to read, forgot to copy this, 10.6.40, so I can find it quickly. Yeah. Because of their relationship as mother and son, this is now the gopis were engaged in various family activities. One should never think that they return to this material world after leaving their bodies. They're involved in this and that and the other thing, seemingly like worldly affairs, but their consciousness, being immersed in Krishna, meant their consciousness was beyond the material affairs. That's text 40. Now, go back. Okay. Oh. Not only did the cowherd men speak about Krishna and his past and future pastimes, but they also enjoyed playing with Krishna, Ramanana. Thus, they did not know the sufferings of materialistic persons, bhava vedanam, though they were living in the material world. When the Vrinvasis say, oh, I am suffering from hunger, that hunger is not related to the material world. And then there's something similar found in an earlier chapter, chapter 8 of Canto 10. This is the childhood, earlier childhood pastimes of Krishna. When Mother Yashoda and Rohini were unable to protect the children from calamities, threatened by horned cows, by fire, by animals with claws and teeth, such as monkeys, dogs, and cats, and by thorns, swords, and other weapons on the ground, they were always in anxiety, and their household engagements were disturbed. At that time, they were fully equipoised in the transcendental ecstasy known as distress of material affection, for this was aroused within their minds. When the boys became stronger with age, the mothers became agitated with prema because the boys' fickle actions. The mothers had to prevent them from grabbing horns, fire, teeth, etc. But they could not prevent them. Why could they not control the boys? The boys were most fickle. They wanted to touch horns of bulls, teeth of dogs and monkeys, knives, or snakes. Commentary says, because the knives they could have put them away, but snakes, what are you going to do with the snakes? And birds such as peacocks. They could prevent their sons from touching these things, but others could not, since they could not beat them. Since it was necessary for the mothers to prevent them, as they were overwhelmed with affection, they did this by not keeping the boys by their sides, and using words. But then they were not able to do their duties in the house to which they were attached from the birth of Krishna, since they took that house as Krishna's house. Thus their minds became very unsettled. When the people of Vraja became unsettled, that unsettled state is a sanchari bhava called chapala, flickering, nourished by the sthayi bhava called parental affection, vatsalya, and became superior to samadhi. The highest stage of happiness in the house became manifested. Later, Brahma will say, comparing them to materialists, quote, the homes, wealth, friends, dear relations, bodies, children, and very lives and hearts of the people of Braja are all dedicated only unto you. The people of Braja were never absorbed in material consciousness. Then this phrase, na avindan bhava vedanam. Nanda Maharaj and others could not even perceive material tribulations. Continuing, Yasoda's bhava is praised this way. Neither Brahma, nor Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Lord, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. From all these verses, it is clear that their bhava was most exalted. Vaishampayana also describes their attraction to Krishna and Balaram. This is the cowherd ladies. Translation: the two boys from infancy were like one body, shining like a small moon and sun. They slept together, ate together, dressed together, and nourished their infant emotions together. They engaged in the same activities like one body in two forms. They were absorbed as one child in carrying out heroic feats. They were the same height and acted like humans with divine qualities. Protecting the world, they wore disguise as two cowherd boys. They appeared beautiful in their pastimes, which were entwined together. They both shone effulgently like the moon and sun in the sky. They wandered about in a crooked manner everywhere with snake-like arms, describing the children crawling. They don't go in a straight line, they go. Covered with mud, they shone like two proud elephant calves. Sometimes they were smeared with ashes, and sometimes with cow dung. The young boys, bright as fire, would run about, and sometimes they would crawl about on their knees. They would play in the calf pen, covered in cow dung up to the head. Endowed with all beauty, they gave joy to their parents. Sometimes they would insult others and laugh. They were filled with mirth, and their hair was disheveled. With moon-like faces, the two young boys shone with splendor. And that's our reading for this evening. The main theme of this section, there's like 8 or 9 verses in a row that's going still, because it's Krishna's childhood pastimes. So the emphasis or focus is going to the parental affection and the relationship with his friends. Mainly these sections, because they were the earlier part of the chapter, it was discussing how they would play together in the forests when herding the calves, because he's still young. His age is between 3 and 4. How old is your daughter?
9.
9? Okay. How old is this one?
2.
2?
She will complete this month end.
Yeah, this one. That's in July.
Wow. So between 3 and 4 years old, the boys. So they're quite playful. And our acharyas described that the normal age at which children, I'm not a parent, but child development, when they start to crawl and when they start to walk and they start to talk and start to do these different things, there's certain ages commonly that these activities, but Krishna learned everything much earlier. He was like way ahead of the game. So he's between 3 and 4 with Balaram and his friends, and they're off just playing in the forest. And the calves follow them along because they have affection for Krishna, like Krishna has for them. If they start to scatter, he blows his buffalo horn or plays on his flute, and through the flute sound he calls the names, and they gather around him. So they're doing like this all day long. So then, in this same chapter, 11, there's the encountering of Vatsasura, the calf demon, and Bakasura, the duck or crane demon. And Krishna encounters, and there's a whole series of things that happen. Now they're back. So the verses that we're reading is the parental affection. Their joy is being with Krishna, seeing Krishna, his smile, his walk, his everything about him, playing with him, speaking about him. It says they composed songs that were just like, they didn't go to music class, they just composed songs. Village people composed songs about Krishna's pastimes. He would do this and he would do that. And that was their life. Now, naturally, elders, parents, but everyone saw Krishna as their child. Like we heard, they were attached to their household duties because they saw their house as Krishna's house because of their strong affection for Krishna, although he didn't come back home to their house. They just saw it that way because of their attachment for him. So they're enjoying with one another. This is we're in a stage of sadhana bhakti. We're gathered together just hearing and discussing pastimes of Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 10. But they didn't have Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 10. They were living it. And they were doing what we're doing, or we're doing what they're doing, which is hearing topics about Krishna and thinking about those, how wonderful is Krishna, and so forth. And they were very protective. At the same time, they were appreciating somehow or another, because of Krishna's piety, Narayan protects him, like that. They're protective, but they're also glorifying their good fortune, his good fortune. How pious must Nanda Maharaj be? Because by his piety, there's so many difficulties, and Krishna is always protected. In different ways. Not like one way only. They not only they had different opinions, but they have different ways of appreciating their mood of love for Krishna. And Krishna would reciprocate with each and every one of them. Like the cowherd boys, their personalities were different, so he would reciprocate differently with each of them. While there's a theme, it's very, very personal. The interaction with those in parental affection, those in friendship, relationship. We're going to hear more as we go along, but now it's kind of speaking in a general sense, but specifically with Balaram. During this stage of their life, our acharyas teach, they were just like friends. One was the older brother, but that mood of the older brother didn't manifest until later. In this early stage, they were just constant companions and friendship. Then later, Balaram took the role of the superior brother deciding things. But then he would still check with Krishna because of his attachment for Krishna. We're getting a picture of what love that's unmixed with anything material, no modes of nature, no selfishness. It's very dynamic and very fluid. There's danger that comes. There's feelings of apprehension and astonishment, just like we read that in the very beginning. Sometimes feeling of ghastliness. It's not bland. But always, Krishna's at the center. Like it said, when Krishna, he voluntarily, he saw, they're in the forest. They took the calves to a lake so they could drink some water. And by the side of the lake, they saw what looked like a mountain peak that they had never seen before. Just kind of got knocked over from some mountain somewhere, lying there from a thunderbolt of Indra or whatever. And they got closer and closer. It wasn't a thunderbolt. It wasn't a peak, mountain peak. It was an animal. They got closer, and it was a big duck or crane. And Krishna went right up, and Bakasura put Krishna in his mouth. Krishna voluntarily went. And when that happened, Balaram, even, as equally powerful as Krishna, as omniscient as powerful as Krishna, nearly fainted because his affection was so strong. But even when his affection was so strong, he didn't forget Krishna. That's specific. That thread that is always there. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mane Sutrakana Eva, everything is strung upon me just like pearls are strung on a thread. So that in the position of love, there's one thing that's always there, feeling of deep affection for Krishna. according to these 5 primary rasas. So when the secondary rasas come and they kind of rise and cover over the primary rasa is always there. The affection for Krishna is always there. It's never forgotten. And that's this position of spiritual love. Variegated like anything, but unmixed with the modes of nature, unmixed with selfish motivation, never lost, even circumstances look very challenging, never forgetting Krishna as they go through whatever they're going to go through to respond to the challenge or the situation. And varieties of loving exchange, and then it flows to the next, and flows to the next, and flows to the next. Because next is going to come, when he gets back, they're going to have him take a bath and dress him in fine cloths and new garland, and have his evening meal with Nanda Maharaj. And Nanda Maharaj would see Krishna. It said specifically, he put Krishna on his right side and Balaram on his left side, because with his right side he could feed Krishna more easily. And over here you'd have a little more of a reach to feed Balaram. And there would be musicians performing. There are beautiful paintings of this scene. And the elder gopis standing behind, ready to bring various offerings. The young gopis off at a distance, just looking shyly to see the activities of Krishna. There's a nice Radharani story. She made some special sweets. So at the end of the meal, Krishna asked if there's any sweets. And Radharani's, yeah, some sweets. So they brought some sweets. And he looked the other way because he knew she was looking through the crack in the door. And he took one bite out of the sweet. He made a horrible face and he spit it out. And Radharani's going, no. It's a loving exchange. And he gave to one of his, Sridham, you take, this is your sister. So he gave to Sridham, and he was, wow, so good. There's loving exchanges of different varieties to move the hearts of his devotees again and again in so many creative ways. These are Krishna's childhood pastimes in Vrindavan, and they're celebrated. We know that Krishna appears only once in one day of Brahma. One day of Brahma is a long time. And the amount of time he spent in Vrindavan was 11 years, 8 months. And the rest of the time he was in Dwarka and Mathura, and his time on the earth planet was 125 years, compared to 11 years, 8 months. But his childhood pastimes are so celebrated. Not just the little boy stealing butter and all those things, but his childhood pastimes. They're so, the sweetness is so strong. With all of the different residents. We heard in chapter 39, we're reading in the mornings, and when Krishna would go to the forest in the morning, the gopis would lament, missing Krishna like anything, separation. So when he would play upon his flute to announce to the people back in Vraja, I'm leaving, and to announce in the residents in the forest, I'm coming, and he would call the cows through the sound of his flute. He would call the names of the groups of cows to gather them all together. There's a whole long section, verse after verse, describing how that flute song, while he's calling the cows, affects the river, affects the trees, affects the creepers, affects the other animals, affects the birds. Everyone becomes affected by Krishna's presence as he moves through Vrindavan playing upon his flute. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. And he's the center of their life. The animate and even the inanimate objects, apparently the clouds. When he plays upon his flute, the clouds rumble, but very softly because they don't want to overshadow the sound of his flute. And they cover Krishna so the heat of the sun isn't scorching him. And they move as Krishna moves. And they're trembling. Although, as if by the movement of the air, they're just moving from the sound of Krishna's flute, being attracted and stunned by it to serve him. It's really nice. And that's how the gopis see everything. You see everyone and everything moved by Krishna and his flute song, and wanting to be in an ecstatic position of service to him. That's Vrindavan. And it's not just like Alice in Wonderland or a fairy tale or something. It's our great acharyas aren't interested in fiction stories. It's just a description of Krishna Loka. And when Krishna comes and performs once in a day of Brahma, performs his pastimes in this world, that's what they experience. And that's what we're getting the opportunity to hear the description of. The same as in the spiritual world, Krishna performs pastimes in this world. Very, very special. So let's see if there's some discussion. She's very calm, like amazing. Sadhu. You got to put the speaker on.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. When I came in, I was hearing about Sanchari Bhava, Sthai Bhava. So, is my understanding correct? Sanchari Bhava means chapala, flickering.
No, that's a particular type.
Oh.
That's a particular and under the heading of Sanchari Bhav, that's one of the subcategories.
Oh. And Sthai Bhava is parental affection?
No, Sthai means steady. So steady ecstasy, Sthai Bhava, steady ecstasy.
Okay.
And Sthai Bhava she's okay. Okay. Sthai Bhava has 5 categories. It uses this terminology, it's like an axle. And then there's a wheel that turns the axle. But it's Sthai Bhava is just their ecstasy. And then rasa is different bhavas moving that particular Sthai Bhava. So don't try to sort through all of this terminology this evening. She can help you with the terminology. But it means steady ecstasy, and it's the foundation for the 5 principal rasas. And one of the things that turns this Sthai Bhava into rasa, or say Sakya rasa, is different bhavas mix with it. And Sthai Bhava is one of those that mixes with it. It gives the metaphor is given. Imagine an ocean or a big body of water, big lake, like whatever it is, Lake Michigan here. And then within the lake, there's rising of waves. So the bhavas are rising of waves. And when this wave mixes with that wave, it makes rasa, or prema rasa of the 5 main humors, depending upon which bhavas mix and which sthai bhava is there, you get different kinds of prema rasa. Okay? And sanchari is one of those waves, and a subset of that one is flickering, chaya. Yeah. So over here, we have been doing this. There's a request. It's online in the room until we run out of in the room questions. So we invite you to have some topics you want to discuss.
This question is from Sanchari Mataji. Two questions. First question is, do the residents of Raja know that their actions or feelings are moving the pastime forward, or is it super soul within their hearts that move them to react?
Super soul.
The second question is one of the reasons that Krishna left Vrindavan because he wouldn't have accomplished the other reasons for his descent?
That's that's secondary. There's primary reasons, but there's a very detailed document that shares that information. So you send me a little note, and when I get back, I'll send you that document. Anyone in the room? Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So there are five primary rasas,
Yes.
which are good enough to give the pleasure in the life. So in addition to the five primary rasas, there are secondary rasas. So which are primarily lives to not favorable because nobody wants to get frightened.
No one wants to get frightened.
Yeah. So why does Krishna needs the secondary rasas?
He doesn't need them. It's just from our side. These secondary rasas may appear to be unpleasant, but there's a very important teaching that it's just a variety of ecstasy. A variety of ecstasy. This thing, because I mentioned it, Krishna's in the beak of the Bakasura, or Krishna's in the coils of the Kaliya serpent. They're ready to give up their life. Or Mother Yasoda is waiting for Krishna to come back, and he's late. If he's come into some difficulty, what's the use of my life? He's late. That's so the young gopis are pacifying, but it's giving rise to her intensity of affection and parental affection. Although it looks like it's an ecstasy. There's a whole science to this. I mean, I'm just giving like a little smidgen. But the feelings of separation look painful. But the feelings of separation intensify love. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, they say. You've heard that one? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Have you heard that saying? Yes? Some of you have. So there's Sambhoga, meeting, and Vipralambha, separation. And the pastimes of Krishna is a whole series of meeting, separation, throughout the day, every day. Sometimes meeting, sometimes separation. So the separation part looks like really unhappy. They can't bear being separate from Krishna. But they have to because he's somewhere else. So it doesn't look nice. But it's an ecstasy. And so on. So, um, it's described in Ramayana also, with reference to Ram's Leela, like Ram's separation from Sita. When Hanuman says, it's not possible. It's not possible that Sita and Ram can be separated. Can the sunshine be separated from the sun? Is it possible? So it's a pastime. But it looks horrible. And look what Ram goes through. Look what Sita goes through. It's horrible. But it's a type of ecstasy. Now they have the capacity to bear that emotion. But it's an ecstasy. It doesn't look like. Hearing about it doesn't even feel like it. Seems like, help, get Sita back. But that's the observer. But the participants, it's an ecstasy. Anyway, it goes on like that. And so the connoisseurs of love, or rasa, describe, it's just varieties of ecstasy. That's what it means, bhava. It's ecstasy. It heightens, it seems to temporarily cover the primary, but the primary is always there, and it amplifies the secondary rasa that heightens the primary rasa. And then when there's meeting, then that heightened state of anticipation of meeting is gone. But then there's always some concern after some time, Krishna is going to be gone again. So there's some tension even when there's meeting. It's a science of emotion and love. But Krishna's protection is always there. She's pretty peaceful. Pretty peaceful. Okay, go ahead. Nothing. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yesterday I heard you say there were 10 main themes of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Can
You want to know where they are?
Right.
Canto 2, Chapter 10, the first 2 verses of the chapter. And then it explains them right after that. And there's another place that comes in the final canto of the Bhagavatam, and I can't remember the chapter and verses. But in the one I mentioned, that's Shukadev, and then later it's Sutta. 10 topics. Here, he's got something.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, one more question.
Sure.
So nobody would want to experience the love in separation. Krishna is a pleasure giver, and he is supposed to give the pleasure.
He does.
But he left the gopis, he left the Vrindavan, and gopis were hankering, always waiting for Krishna. So this is not a kind of love the gopis would expect. That was imposed by Krishna by leaving them alone.
Yeah.
So why Krishna should do that? And
Then don't go before the next one. Let's do one at a time. It's a pastime. Like, why did Ram? He's omniscient, right? Why did Ram go after this golden deer? Because he's omniscient. He must have known because he's omniscient. And by his going away, then Sita doing what Sita did, and Lakshman went away, and Ravan came along. So why did he do that? Or when they're back together, why did he put her in the fire? Or when they're back in Ayodhya, why did he send her away? Because she already proven her chastity, and he's already omniscient. So why? That's cruel. Looks like. But it's an ecstasy. I mean, your same question you asked before, it's the same question, just coming in a different way. It's Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. The Leela is he left Vrindavan, but he entered, his Shama Sundara form, not just Paramatma, but his Shama Sundara form entered the hearts of the gopis. That scene where he takes his bath in the river Jamuna, you know that Krura wants to take bath before going to Mathura. After he does, Krishna and Balaram do it, then he does, and he sees what he sees. So Vasudeva Krishna left from that place into Mathura, and Shyamasundara Krishna remained in Vrindavan, in the hearts of the residents of Vrindavan. He never leaves Vrindavan. The Prakat Leela wasn't taking place, but the connection with Krishna within their heart was fully present. And that's his mercy and his loving reciprocation. Now, part of love is separation. And he was feeling that same feeling they were feeling, isn't it? As intense as they're feeling, he was feeling the same feeling of separation. You know, when there's a nice drama by Rupa Goswami. After Krishna leaves Vrindavan, he's in Dwarka. And his feelings of love for Krishna are so intense. His feelings of love for the gopis are so intense. And his dear friend Uddhava understands it. So Uddhava makes a plan of how to pacify Krishna's feelings of separation from the residents of Vrindavan. So he arranges a drama, and Krishna's in the audience, and Uddhava's next to Krishna in the audience, and now the audience is Krishna with his associates in Vrindavan. And Krishna's feeling separation, so he gets up and starts to run to the stage to embrace the associates of Vrindavan. And Uddhava's holding back. It's just a drama. He feels as they feel, naturally so. It's not a one-way love, it's a two-way love. Yetam mam prapadyante. So why is Krishna doing that to himself? What to speak of them? Because it's an intensification of love. Then there's a whole long, when he invites Uddhava to go to Vrindavan on his behalf. You know that story? He went to Mathura, he killed Kamsa, freed his mother Vasudeva and Devaki, Ugrasena became the king. Nanda is still there, because Nanda attended that festival. Krishna says to Nanda, Balaram and I will come soon. I give you my word. We'll come soon. Go back. We have to be with our family members here for some time, so we don't just leave them in the lurch. So he's in Mathura considering. I gave my word to Nanda, but Vasudeva has also. It's very detailed. Vasudeva asked me, please stay, because you have killed Kamsa, and those who will want some revenge for having killed Kamsa will come. We need you to stay, to help us, protect us. Vasudeva. So he's given his word to Vasudeva, and he's thinking, if I go back to Vrindavan, the remaining demons on earth will know I have affinity for the residents of Vrindavan, and they'll go and harass the resident of Vrindavan. I can't go. Then he considers, maybe if I send Balaram, but that'll make things worse, because I didn't come. And there's a very wonderful commentary, remind me, and I'll send it to her and she'll send it to you. It's why didn't Krishna go back? Which isn't your question. Your question is, why did he go? But I'm answering, he went. It's part of the Leela. It's like the cowherd boys saying, we're hungry. We're in anguish of hunger. Please do something. It's a Leela. And the Leela is not unkind. It's intensification and churning different feelings of love. And he enters their heart, he's with them. And it's said because of the intensity of their emotion, they can see Krishna. It's called spurti. The intensity of their emotion is so great they can see Krishna. But they're feeling separation from Krishna as they're seeing Krishna. They're like mad. The intensity of their love is so great. It's not hallucination. They're seeing Krishna, they're feeling Krishna's presence. They're feeling separation from him. It's quite mysterious. But it's not lack of kindness. Now, do we have something online? Let's do some online.
This is Giri Votikota Prabhu. What should be my mood while listening or reading these pastimes so that I don't speculate things that are not clear to me yet?
Just your heart is a vessel, and let your heart vessel fill up. Just hear in a humble mood, appreciating how wonderful is Krishna. Just do that. You have something more?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. One of the questions raised a question for me. This is about free will. So, I know we have a limited free will in material planet.
In the material planets?
In the material.
Not only here, anywhere. That's just our nature. It's our constitutional nature.
So, if we
have free will in the spiritual world
spiritual
also.
world also.
Yes. We don't stop being a soul. We're souls here or there with free will. Tiny parts of the Supreme that has unlimited. We have tiny whatever the Supreme has.
But then, what is the use of free will in spiritual world? Because
love. That's the use of it.
So that is.
It's voluntary.
So it is my choice to
Yes,
love.
absolutely.
And it's not Krishna's.
You can say no. That's on the menu list. You can say no.
This question is from Srujana Mataji, one of the Bhagavatam group readers.
Okay.
When can we know our spiritual identity?
When you're pure and when Krishna shows it to you. That's how you know, that when you can know.
Now, this question is from Shrikant Prabhu. So, Hanuman's burning Lanka, is it Bibhatsa Rasa?
Or chivalry. That's one of the secondary rasas. You have something? No? Okay. Okay. Huh? You have something? Okay.
The question about deity worship, mood during deity worship, because sometimes when we begin, we always are advised to worship with awe and reverence.
Yes.
And sometimes I get bewildered when some devotees say Krishna is like a child, and I'm just like in a parental mood. Does like how to process when sometimes devotees share like in a different kind of platform.
Well, this is me speaking. I don't know how others would respond. My response is you smile, but you just at the same time with a smile, not with a stick in your hand, you say, we're instructed until we become in the spontaneous stage of bhakti, that we're to worship with awe and reverence. And we have standards and moods that go with those standards, and it's the awe and reverence mood. No, some people pay no attention at all to that, but with a smile. That's just explain that. So it's immature imitation from someone that speaks like that, unless they're the spontaneous stage of bhakti. But that's a very elevated stage of bhakti. So not so likely. Okay. Would you like to speak something? Discuss some topic? Mataji? Anything? Because we're going around the room. Would you like to share anything or ask anything? Okay, fine.
So the Shrujana Mataji, the same Mataji who asked about spiritual identity, her question is, second question is, being practicing Krishna consciousness, if we need to take the birth again, will we take human body, or we have to again go through the lower species?
According to what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you're guaranteed a human form in your next life. Even a little devotional service you continue in your next life in the human form. Okay?
More questions?
Huh?
More questions.
There are more?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Giri Votikota Prabhu, second question. Could you please enlighten us why Krishna picked the role of a cowherd boy than any other role, any specific reason?
Yeah, it's his eternal position. That's why. He didn't pick it. It's just that's his Swayam Bhagavan Krishna is Govinda, Gopal.
And this question is from Mahati Mataji, Mahati Kirti Mataji. Why are our gurus in Parampara, their Swarupa Siddhi is Manjari form, why not other forms?
I think you have to ask Krishna that question.
So this is from Rupa Mataji, Vinod Prabhu's wife. I believe we are associated with Krishna with only one of the primary rasas. Is that true? If yes, do we feel the same rasa or bhava when we see Krishna in the deity form today that we were associated with him eternally?
The answer to the first question is yes, and the answer to the second question is no. When we're in the practicing stage of bhakti, we're not in touch with who we really are. We're trying to cleanse ourselves and awaken spiritual consciousness. But don't imagine, once again, that you're this or that or the other thing. That will be revealed to you in time with purity and Krishna's mercy.
Guru Maharaj, I had one more question. Or maybe, I don't know, I'm just trying to understand. It felt like to me just by hearing that even like the gopis and brajavasis in spiritual world, they were more attached to Krishna katha all the time, even when they were not, when Krishna was not with them, they were still talking. So this has more attraction than Krishna himself? Or?
More attraction by speaking about Krishna than being with Krishna? I don't know if that's... When they're speaking about Krishna, it's in his absence, generally. Sometimes they speak about Krishna in his presence. So there's that feeling of affection in separation, so it's to pacify the feeling of separation because of separation. by speaking about him. I don't know if it's stronger. It's variegated at least. It's easy to say yes or no, but at least it's variegated. And that's also part of Krishna's arrangement. Varieties of exchanges with him. Like, the cowherd boys, we're hearing regularly that the cowherd boys, when they're with Krishna, they're singing Krishna's praises. So they don't have to wait till he's gone. They sing in his presence. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.